Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought a casual conversation could unravel my entire life, but that Tuesday evening proved me wrong. My name is Ethan, I'm 34, and I've been with Samantha for nearly 6 years. When we met, she was electric, funny, smart, magnetic, and I wasn't flashy, but I was steady. I had my career in software development, my own apartment, and a life that wasn't extraordinary, but it worked. We clicked instantly. It wasn't about fireworks at first. It was about laughter, late-night talks, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone understood you. For the first few years, everything felt simple. Weekends were road trips. Weekday nights were Netflix and homemade dinners. But Samantha had always been curious, adventurous, and slightly unpredictable. At first, it was exciting. Her spontaneity kept our relationship alive. Then came the conversation I'd never forget. It was an ordinary Sunday, the kind where the sun streams through your apartment windows, the faint hum of city traffic a background rhythm. Samantha sat across from me on the couch, sipping her tea, eyes darting between her phone and my face. I noticed the unusual tension immediately. She had that look, the one that mixes excitement with nerves, like she was preparing to step into a truth she didn't know how to phrase. I've been thinking, she began cautiously. My heart sank slightly. I'd heard that preamble before, and it never led anywhere simple. I want to try something new, she said, eyes fixed on the floor. I think an open marriage might work for us. I blinked. My tea sloshed slightly in my mug. Open marriage? I echoed, hoping I had misheard. She nodded, like it was the most natural thing in the world. It doesn't mean I don't love you. I do, but I want to explore. I think you should too. For a moment, I couldn't respond. My mind raced. I loved Samantha deeply, but the idea of other men in our relationship wasn't something I could digest. I tried to stay calm, tried to imagine the logical path forward. I asked questions, discussed boundaries, emotions, fears. She promised it would be careful, consensual, and above all, honest. I agreed, mostly because I didn't want to lose her. I rationalized it. Perhaps this was her way of expressing trust. Maybe it could bring us closer, if handled correctly. But deep down, a knot had formed in my stomach, one I could not no matter how hard I tried. The next few weeks were manageable on the surface. Samantha would disappear occasionally, returning with spark in her eyes, claiming she was meeting new people, exploring her freedom. And I tried to do the same, though my attempts felt forced, awkward. I couldn't shake the creeping discomfort, the quiet jealousy that gnawed at my confidence. Then the first signs of betrayal appeared, not from Samantha, but from those I least expected. Her sister, Olivia, the one I always thought I got along with, started calling more often. "Hey, Ethan, just wanted to see how you're doing," she'd say casually, voice warm but with a hint of something else underneath. I laughed it off at first, thinking perhaps she was just checking in. But the messages became persistent. Texts late at night, asking about me personally, about my feelings about Samantha, but always with an intimacy that made my skin crawl. And then came her friends. I had always been friendly with Samantha's circle. Game nights, dinners, group outings. Suddenly, I started receiving messages from multiple friends, private, flirty, often laced with teasing commentary about Samantha's arrangement, about me being available now, about how to help Ethan explore his freedom. I tried confronting Samantha. "Why are your friends messaging me like this?" I asked quietly one evening, while she scrolled through Instagram, completely unfazed. She looked up, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "Oh, don't overthink it, Ethan. They're just joking. It's all part of the new arrangement." Part of me wanted to explode, wanted to throw the mug across the room, scream, demand control over my life. But I held back. I knew that reacting impulsively would only make me look weak in this surreal social experiment she had created. Instead, I retreated. I spent nights replaying conversations, scanning texts, reading between every line of flirty commentary. The more I tried to rationalize it, the more it felt like a trap. Each laugh they shared at group dinners now had a subtle edge, a knowing glance aimed squarely at me. By the end of the month, it was unmistakable. Her sister and several of her closest friends were circling me subtly, overtly, and sometimes aggressively. The thrill Samantha had promised turned into tension, a tight coil of dread and disbelief. The woman I loved had opened the door, but the ones I trusted had stormed in first. I started avoiding social gatherings, canceling plans, retreating to the only place I could feel safe, my apartment. But even there, peace was fleeting. Notifications would ping, messages would arrive, photos tag in ways that made me feel watched. Every time I picked up my phone, I braced for the next wave. It was during one late night, scrolling through my apartment in the dim light, that I realized the enormity of the situation. I was trapped not by Samantha, not directly, but by the network she had unleashed. Her sister, her friends, they had become the predators in a game I hadn't even agreed to play. I sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of betrayal, disbelief, and fear. The air felt thick, heavy, almost suffocating. And yet, beneath it all, a spark ignited, something primal, something that refused to be crushed. I didn't know what I would do next, but I knew one thing. The game had changed, and this time, I wasn't the one being chased. The next morning, I woke with a sense of urgency I hadn't felt in years. Something in me had shifted overnight. I couldn't continue being passive, waiting for another subtle attack, another flirty message, another betrayal dressed as a joke. I made a decision. I would confront them all, not with anger, not with threats, but with a quiet, calculated clarity that comes from realizing you've been cornered. I started with Samantha. I walked into the kitchen where she was sipping her morning coffee, hair messy, eyes expectant. "We need to talk," I said, voice calm but firm. She raised an eyebrow, leaning against the counter. "About last night?" "No," I replied. "About everything. The open marriage, your sister, your friends, the game you created around me. It's gone too far." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smirk. "Ethan, you knew this would happen. I thought you'd be more flexible." "Flexible?" I echoed. "You think it's flexibility when the people I trusted most are deliberately undermining me?" I agreed to an arrangement, yes, but I didn't agree to being hunted in my own life. She blinked, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face for the first time in weeks. I pressed on. "I need to know. Are you in this with me? Or are you letting them use me for their amusement?" Samantha hesitated. The air thickened with tension. Finally, she whispered, I didn't think it would get this out of control. I thought I could manage it." "You didn't manage anything," I said quietly. "You lost control the moment you involved them." Her eyes widened as the weight of her words, and mine sank in. She didn't respond further. I left the apartment, phone in hand, ready for the next step. I knew what I had to do. Confront Olivia and the friends. I reached out to each one individually, requesting to meet at neutral locations. Their initial messages were casual, teasing, until they realized I wasn't joking. The tables had turned. I met Olivia first, at a quiet cafe. She arrived, cheerful as ever, pretending nothing was wrong. "Hey, Ethan, you wanted to talk?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I want to understand why you decided to pursue me after Samantha opened the door. Were you testing me? Was it fun?" Her smile faltered. I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to?" I interrupted, calm but icy. "You deliberately crossed boundaries, manipulated situations, and tried to destabilize me. And for what? Fun? Attention?" Olivia's face paled. It wasn't like that. She asked for space, and I thought I was helping her." "Helping her? By attacking me?" I asked, leaning in slightly. "The person she supposedly loves?" She looked down, silent. I let her stew in her own realization before leaving. No yelling, no confrontation beyond facts. Just clarity. Next, I addressed her friends. One by one, they received the same message. Meet me, talk openly, or accept consequences. And they showed up, nervous, uneasy, realizing the playful games they thought were harmless had consequences they hadn't foreseen. I didn't humiliate anyone. I didn't yell. I simply walked them through what they'd done, how each message, each joke, each suggested comment had eroded trust, invaded boundaries, and created a hostile environment. And then I laid out the rules. No contact with me, no interference in my life, and respect the decisions of adults in relationships. I left the cafe without argument, leaving a quiet but palpable tension behind. Returning home, I found Samantha waiting. She didn't speak immediately. I sat across from her, silence stretching between us like a taut wire. Finally, she broke it. "Ethan, I didn't expect you to handle it like this." "I handled it how I had to," I said, soft but firm. "You wanted freedom. You got it. But I won't be used, manipulated, or undermined. I won't let anyone treat me like a game piece. Not even you." Her lips quivered slightly. I thought we could navigate it together. I thought you'd bend." "I don't bend at the expense of my dignity," I said. "And you have to realize that includes you and anyone around you." Samantha nodded slowly, eyes glossy, realizing the truth she'd ignored. For the first time, she looked small, not in a cruel sense, but in the way people look when confronted by reality they can't manipulate. Weeks passed after that day. Samantha respected my boundaries. Olivia and the friends disappeared from my life. The messages stopped. The whispers ended. And for the first time in months, the apartment felt like mine again. I learned something crucial. Boundaries aren't optional, even with people you love. Trust is earned, but dignity is non-negotiable. I love Samantha. I did. But love doesn't justify being cornered, harassed, or played like a pawn in someone else's amusement. And I realized another thing. Sometimes the real betrayal isn't in a lover's desires, but in the people they bring into your life. You can survive the heartbreak if you stay calm, stay clear, and most importantly, stand firm. I finally understood that day. Standing up for yourself isn't anger. It isn't revenge. It's survival. And in survival, I discovered a quiet satisfaction that no chaos, no manipulation, and no open marriage could ever take away. The chapter was closed. I didn't need fireworks, and I didn't need approval. I needed clarity, and for the first time in months, I had it.